The Kalahari Desert is a vast, flat, sandy but grassy plain, roughly the size of France. Although hot and dry, it is not really a desert in the strictest sense of the term. In most parts there are thorn trees and a variety of edible roots, berries and nuts, as well as grass, which feeds numerous species of antelope. Until recently, the Kalahari Bushmen have not lived in permanent villages, but rather as small nomadic groups or bands, each band consisting of a few extended families who range within an area or territory as large as 400 square miles. Their once numerous ancestors inhabited nearly all of southern Africa and perhaps parts of East Africa. We do not know when or where these ancient people originated, but we can assume that they were the first of the present inhabitants of southern Africa. They were the hunters with the poison arrow, the people of the healing dance, the painters of southern Africa's rock art treasures, who spoke with a strange clicking tongue, the Bushmen. Time and history have taken a heavy toll on their numbers, and today almost all of the remaining Bushmen eke out an existence in remote areas of the Kalahari Desert. This was not always the case. This film is the story of a year in the lives of the last band of Gwi Bushmen, still living the old way of life in the central Kalahari Desert of Botswana. They are perhaps the last substantial band of wild Bushmen left in the world today. The story of a vanishing phase of human culture. Until a short while ago, this little band of Gwikwe lived in this place they call Kotwe, somewhere in the middle of their great sand face, the Kalahari. The day begins. The mornings, as always, are slow. People take time to visit, to sit together and to talk, perhaps about the day's hunt or whatever plans they have, if any, for the day ahead. 24 people, from 1 year to 95 years in age. They share everything. If one person gives to another, then at some time in the future, the other will return the gift. This system of personal obligation ensures interdependency between members of the band, which in turn ensures the survival of the group as a whole. They live only by hunting and gathering. Hunting is men's work, and the gathering of felt food is primarily a woman's task. It is early in the year. The last rains were only 2 moons ago, and the veldt still produces enough food to keep the band reasonably secure within this area of the great sand face. There is no water in the Kalahari Desert, and these people depend for moisture entirely on whatever melons or roots they find growing wild in the veldt. This is Gwikwe, the grandmother of the band. She's close to 85 years old. The wild melon is split in two with a digging stick, the insides hacked out and eaten. The seeds are saved for roasting in hot coals. The grandmother says that this old man, 0O, is at least 10 years older than her. She remembers him as a young hunter when she was still a small girl. This tree, situated in the middle, is called the old man's tree. Because old people require little sleep, it is the tradition that the old bachelors sleep in the open, surrounded by the other shelters, where they can best keep watch at night. Nothing that can be eaten or otherwise practically used by Bushmen is ever wasted. The women are roasting cucumbers. Apart from roots and other green foods, these provide the only real source of liquid during these hot summer months. The cucumbers are covered with hot coals and left until morning to be eaten over the next few days or until the next gathering trip. Fire is the center of all Bushman social life, something to cook food in, to gather round, and to keep warm by at night. Relationships within this little band are very strong, with set patterns prescribing each person's behavior towards his fellows. Every custom is geared towards ensuring the survival and security of the band as a whole. No one individual pretends or claims to be different. We are all equal, they say. And it is on this basis of equality that we live our life. The old lady and little Seka, the hunter, the doctor, the young wives. These are some of the people of this little band, the last of their race to live in the old way. Zero-O. The old man no longer participates in the longer and more rigorous hunts with the young men, but still remains useful to the band in so many other ways. Today, he digs for poison, the poison grub which Bushman hunters have used to poison their arrows for as long as they can remember. Soon after the rainy season, the beetle, having eaten the leaves of a certain bush, burrows down into the earth where it forms a small mud cocoon within which it lays an egg. The egg hatches to a larva, and in the stomach cavity of this larva breed bacteria which provide the poison. Later, back at the shelters, the old man prepares the poison for application to the arrows. The cocoons are broken apart. The larva is removed and rolled or pummeled to soften the insides. The poison is squeezed out onto a bone placed next to the fire to keep it warm and liquid. Zero-O chews the bark of a special tree and mixes its juice with the poison. This strengthens the poison and also helps it to bind onto the arrow shaft. The Bushman hunting arrow is made up from 5 different parts, but consists of 2 main sections. The longer back section breaks off when an animal runs through the bush, leaving behind the shorter front shaft, which carries the poison. Contrary to belief, there is an antidote for Bushman poison. It is derived from a vegetable substance and is carried in the quiver bags of most old hunters. Its source is a well-kept secret. The mothers keep their children away from a man when he's working with poison. It is the only area within Bushman culture which is strictly taboo for the children. And, like hunting, it is a man's work. Today, the hunters were successful in their shooting. The poison on their arrows works slowly, and sometimes it takes as long as 24 hours before a large antelope is sufficiently weakened for the hunters to run it down. The two hunters who shot the antelope will remain aloof tonight. They will not share in any feasting or games. Neither will they play with their children nor sleep with their wives. If a hunter indulges himself at a time like this by bragging or otherwise, he will weaken himself, and as he weakens, his quarry becomes stronger. He must maintain his psychic link with the wounded animal so that in the morning, when the hunters take up the blood spoor, they will find the animal weak and close to the place where it was shot. Although nothing is said, the women sense by their men's behavior whether or not they have succeeded in wounding an animal. These Bushmen call all dances and songs yia, which literally means step. This dance, the melon dance, is one of the oldest traditional women's games. Whoever drops the melon suffers laughter and teasing from the other participants. Bushmen will always mock anyone who has been the victim of a not too serious misfortune. This is a way of making light of something which might otherwise be taken too seriously. A way of sharing and keeping all things equal, thereby re-ensuring the harmony and stability of the whole band. In the morning, the men take up the spoor. The hunters lead them to the place where they wounded two wildebeest. From there on, they follow the spoor, sometimes for many miles, before the animal is sufficiently weakened to be chased, run down, and finally killed. The poison has done its work. The first wildebeest is tracked down before the sun is too many hours old. With two spears broken on the first kill, the second animal must be brought down with the only remaining spear. The first throw is true, but the animal is not ready to die. He retrieves his spear for a second throw, and then it is over. It is unthinkable for a bushman to eat alone, and back at the shelters, the meat is fairly distributed amongst close kin and others, according to strict rules. This ensures that even the less fortunate hunters and their families will receive meat from the hunt. Today, there is plenty, enough for everyone. Anything not eaten is cut into strips and hung. Although the sun causes the meat to rot as fast as it dries, it is still palatable and will keep hunger at bay for a week or more. A lovely sense of security pervades the shelters at a time like this. Full bellies and no pressing need to hunt or gather food. Kamage, the other old man, no longer hunts nor sets his own snares, but by checking snares for the other men and helping with the cutting and carrying of meat on most of the hunts, he ensures his own keep in the band. A steenbok in a grass rope snare. Horns and hooves are formidable weapons, and it's not uncommon for a man to have his knuckles split open. And in a place where there is no medicine, an injury like this can have very serious repercussions. Infection, gangrene, possibly the loss of a hand. Kamage is so absolutely primitive in all his ways, almost a Stone Age man. It's as if he is a throwback to the old people, the ancestors of today's Bushmen. Small antelope, like duiker and steenbok, are always taken back to the shelters to be skinned and roasted. The children participate in these events, as they do in everything else. The men make their hunting bags and loincloths from steenbok skin, while the slightly larger duiker skin is used to make the front and back aprons worn by the women. The skin from male hemsbok and wildebeest is too thick to cure. If not eaten, it is used for making sandals or cut into long strips. After attaching the heavy log weights, Kamage turns and twists the thongs to aid the stretching and softening process. The boys carry out the more menial tasks, like cleaning the intestines. This allows them at a very early age to learn about skinning and the anatomy of the animals that they will one day hunt. The steenbok is covered with a bed of hot coals and roasted. The steenbok skin is pegged out to dry, after which it's scraped until it is thin enough to be softened for later use. Skin scraping is normally a communal task, for men only. The hunter who shot the animal with his poisoned arrow is the owner of this wildebeest skin. The Gwikwe believe that whistling onto the blade helps to keep it sharp. Everything is used. The dried skin scrapings are saved to be cooked with melons and eaten. Autumn has come, and the great sand face turns from green to brown. There are no more melons and cucumbers. They have disappeared from the normal collecting places much earlier this year, perhaps because of last year's drought. The coming winter will be hard. Bushmen are extremely practical botanists. They examine and appreciate plants in the minutest detail, and then turn this intimate knowledge to their own ends. The women know which plants can be eaten and where in the banned territory each species can be found. Most food plants are seasonal. There are some 50-odd species of edible plants growing in this part of the Kalahari. And then the long journey home, carrying loads sometimes as heavy as the bearer's own body weight. From his vantage point on his mother's back, little Seka observes and learns the secrets of the great sandface. The evenings are still warm, but soon the south wind will begin to blow, and then comes the winter. One of the plants the women gather in the summer months is called gui. From the leaves of this they make string. By pulling the leaves between a leather sandal and a digging stick or Hemsbach horn, they strip the non-edible flesh from the fibrous interior. Before they become too dry, these fibers are rolled and twisted into a string. Gwikwe children learn dancing, food gathering, and hunting almost as soon as they can walk. By the age of 6 or 7, the boys are already accurate shooters. They even make their own small bows and arrows. They hunt within a radius of about 2 miles around the shelters, and their prey is anything that moves. The Bushman boy dreams of being a great hunter when he grows up. His only reality is to be a hunter, and he hopes, if for anything, to be a great hunter, like his father. Just as their fathers do, the boys return to the shelters with their prize. That morning, hunters on horseback from the government settlement passed by. In the evening, around the fire, the people talk of the settlement, the abundance of water there, and the free issues of food. Whenever there is contact with people from the settlement, the band reacts. They never had an alternative way of life before, but now they do, and the prospect makes them feel insecure and disturbed. In any Bushman camp, there are several fires constantly burning inside or in front of each hut, and frequently a communal fire. In the daytime, the women sit around the fire while they cook, talk, and watch the children. At night, the men join in and talk about the day's activities, the hunt, or friends and relatives already in the settlement. The Bushmen are so close to those basic natural elements, fire, air, and earth. It's just the water that's missing. In the morning, a father and his son check the snares on the burnt-out plain near the shelters. A young hartebeest bull is caught, already dead. The other men are hunting far away, so the pair go back to the shelters to bring the women to help carry the meat. The old men go along to assist in the skinning and cutting. They must hurry. The midday sun is hot and will spoil the meat. The women are never allowed to help with the actual skinning and cutting. It is work only for men. The oldest man at the kill is responsible for the cutting of the foreleg, and this he does with the owner's permission. Old 0O makes the first cut, and then the other men join in and finish the task. The men carry the light portions, saying to the women, "We have done our work. We kill the animals for you." It is not far today, and before too long they arrive back at the shelters. It takes so little to bring pleasure to these people, just enough to eat and drink. Often their pleasure finds expression in traditional dances. The ostrich dance, a celebration of male victory. In this dance, the men set each other up as protagonists in a challenge situation. The hunters and the hunted. The women clap and sing in accompaniment. From this time on, life will become more and more difficult. Already, food plants are scarce, and large antelope are no longer plentiful. Winter is coming, and with it, the dryness. Thoughts of the settlement and security are increasingly in everyone's mind. A cold morning finds the men in a hunting camp, far away from the shelters. The people need meat. Their only protection from the biting wind is a blanket made from hemsbok skin. For 4 days now, they have been tracking giraffe, but the spoor is old. The veldt is dry and brittle. There is nothing for the animals to eat. It is the same everywhere across the great sand face. The hunter makes a fire by spinning a hard stick in a hole in a softer one. The friction produces smouldering ash, which is carefully tipped onto dry grass and blown into flame. Fire is essential to the veldt. It must burn out the old grass to make way for new growth, so that the animals will return. The strong wind will take this fire through many hundreds of square miles. When the spring comes, this will be a good place for hunting once again. At times like this, the onus falls on the women to supply the band with food, and they, too, travel far beyond their normal collecting places. Two years of abnormal drought have caused the great sand face to suffer terribly, and everything they find is old and bitter. No wonder that the alternative of life in a government settlement and water seems more and more attractive. The days drag on. The great sand face becomes hotter and hotter, and the struggle for survival more desperate. No quarter is asked. and none given. And when the spring comes this year, it will bring little relief. The dryness persists. The sun burns from a pale, cloudless sky. The people forage far afield in small groups, and even the great hunter who searches alone, day after day, finds nothing to shoot. Back at the shelters, nothing moves during the heat of the day. The people are thirsty all day long, each one trapped in his own heat, small, still bundles, in whatever black shade they can find. They breathe sparingly, conserve energy, and wait for the sun to pass. Rain? There is a stirring in the west, a wind. There is rain in the sky, and the people see it coming. It passes over. Only a few drops fall, enough to wet the surface, and to leave the small children wondering where it has gone. Rain like this is bad. All it does is cause the seeds to germinate, and when there is no more rain to support the new growth, everything dies. The days go through the same endless pattern of waiting for the rain. The air becomes hotter and more stifling. The Bushmen wait. The rain must come. It always does. Food is so short that an old piece of leather thong is ground up to be eaten. This is the dry skin of the wildebeest, which was killed in the autumn, 8 months ago. The drought has produced conditions extreme even for the Gwikwe. There is more talk of moving, of going to live in the government settlement. At last, the east wind comes, hard and hot, banking up clouds in the western sky. The rain has come. This is the first time the youngest children have ever seen rain. The people are afraid of the thunder. They shout at the lightning so that it can know where they are and not strike them. It rains long and hard through the night. No one sleeps. And then a new day begins on the great sand face. Little Seka comes to visit, just to make sure that no one has been washed away. The old men, Zero-O and Kamage, go with the hunter's wife and her son and his little brother to where some of the rainwater has collected in Gwikwe Pan. The water will not last long. They fill the ostrich eggs belonging to all the people, and also the stomach bags from large antelope. A herd of wildebeest have already been through the water. For the boys, mud is a new experience. After filling all their containers and drinking their fill, they leave for the shelters. This is the only water these people have seen in the last 20 months, and by tonight, it will be gone. The sun is also thirsty. Rain does not mean that there will be water to drink. It is very quickly soaked up into the sand or evaporated. For some days now, the people have talked, and they all agree, and the decision has been made. Why must they be hungry? Why must they be thirsty when they hear that their relatives in the settlement eat mealie meal and drink water? Why should their children be without? These are the last days of the wild Gwikwe. In the morning, they leave for the government settlement. They take with them everything that they own. It is a long walk, 5 days. For so long, this place has been home, and now it stands empty. Only the bone and ash heaps remain to tell the story of each successful hunt and of the people who once lived here. That evening, they cross the Pan, the first leg of their journey. The waterhole is already empty. Two nights later, they're almost halfway to the settlement. There is a sadness among the people. Very little is said. Some have feelings of anticipation. Others remain uncertain. The hunters have found some ostrich eggs, which they roast in the coals. It seems strange that no one laughs when one of the men burns his fingers. They share the roots and other food they have found along the way. And then it is time to walk. Tonight they will stop once again, and then only one more day. Gamama, their great god, blesses them with an overcast sky. The sand will not be so hot for walking. After 4 days and many miles, they find themselves at the Big Pan, only a few hours from the settlement. These little people of the sand face, who share everything. They hunt together in the daytime. They gather food and sit together at night around the same fire and watch the sun setting at the same time. They have always been equal. Finally, they come to the road. Soon they will be there. Carried on the wind, they hear the sounds of the borehole engine. It breaks through the silence of the vast sand face and their own thoughts. Dogs barking, donkeys, and many people. This is the place which from now on will be their home. No one speaks. The clinic, the soccer posts, a school for the children, and at the center of everything, the borehole and water. It must be said that for as long as Bushmen have lived in the Kalahari Desert, perhaps 15,000 years, they have been thirsty. When presented with the alternative of a tap which constantly runs water, clean water, it is understandable that a man's whole being is drawn to that place and the water. The Botswana government has done as much as any government can for a small minority of people who for so long have been so different in all of their ways. The gap cannot be bridged. No one is to blame. It's just that the Bushman winter has come.